Hello, everyone. April Cox here, and we are with special guest Bryan Cohen today. I am so excited to have him here for the Author to Authorpreneur Summit. And I've been fortunate to have Bryan visit me on a number of interviews with my author group, but this is really a special discussion for me because I wanted to peek inside your authorpreneur journey, Bryan. It's not one that we get to hear much. So tell us a little bit about your journey as an author and where did you begin? And then we can kind of expand that to how you went from writing the books, single books, to kind of starting to treat this as a business and how your business has grown over time. I think it's just an amazing journey with what you've done, not only with your own books, but also serving authors.
Thank you. And thank you for having me, April. So, I always knew in some way that I wanted to be involved with writing. And I took classes in college. I was very, very interested in it and started a blog shortly after. And the blog taught me a lot. This was pre-self-publishing in the way we know it, pre-KDP. It was even before KDP was called KDP. It had another name first, like Amazon Publishing Services. And I learned a lot from blogging about just there are people searching for certain things. There are people on the internet searching for certain things. And if you write the things that they're searching for, you have a better chance of being discovered. And I learned that so much through blogging. And the original book that I created, the first book that I created, was a collection of blog posts, but it was blog posts that I had done the research on and figured out, oh, this combination of words gets more searches than this combination of words. And I learned so much about how readers are looking for something, and you have the ability to give that to them. And so when I was first putting out that book and then several books after, which were books of creative writing prompts for writers, for authors, screenwriters, I really started to understand more that if you write something that you have done no research on, you don't know the industry, the genre, the anything, you put that out into the world, it's a learning experience. But it isn't necessarily teaching you the important skills that are needed to eventually transition your thinking to a business. And so the beginnings of my writing in the blogging world were extremely instructive because if I didn't write something that people were searching for, nobody was ever going to find me.
That's interesting that you've always had that mindset of the data and searching for what, and we have that quite often as authors. We talk about, what are we passionate about? That's what we should write about. But there's that crossover between what you're passionate about and what people are looking to read as well. And you're right. That's where you take it from passion to business, right? If it's going to grow as a business. And so what type of research typically would you do to try to determine if something was marketable?
Well, back in the day, there was a lot of keyword research. We didn't have a lot of self-published books at that time. My first book that I self-published came out in 2010. When dinosaur books roamed the earth. I don't know. It was not very populated with self-published books. And so back in the day, a lot of it was keyword research tools like the Google AdWords tool and some of the blogging software back in 2010 allowed you to do some hunting about this is a solid keyword, this is not. But nowadays with the author world, you can still do some of that searching, but you have the ability to look at the bestseller lists for your genres. You have the ability to look at any book. You can go scroll down to product details. You can see what is the sales rank for that book? You can look at some of the categories that it's ranking in. You can start to get a pretty good idea of what is selling. And I think what the first step authors skip, and there are many that I find people skip, is at least just knowing what sells. People might say, oh, well, romance sells. It's like, yeah, but there's about 50 romance subgenres, right? And so it's not just that romance sells. You can't just go write a romance and it's automatically going to work, because you don't know. Is it contemporary? Is it historical? Which tropes does it feature? Does it have enemies to lovers or friends to lovers? People need to start thinking about not just, this general idea of what is selling. They need to look at, there's numbers. They're available, freely available for all of us to look at and keep track of. And we don't do that important first step of just saying, okay, well, what is actually selling? And you can get more specific with it. What is selling in the genres I like to read or that I like to write in?
Mm-hmm. I like that. So at what point during your journey did you decide, or did you move from author to authorpreneur? How did you begin the business and decide what it was that you were going to offer, and kind of growing your company? I'd love to have a little bit of information about how that occurred for you.
Sure. Well, I have a different journey than some. There's a lot of fiction authors out there, and I have written 8 novels and several short stories. But I have made my authorpreneurial journey more in the nonfiction space. And so for me, a lot of it has to do with, okay, I have this book out, and this book is going to point people to something else that people can do with me. Mm-hmm. For a fiction author, it is, in the back of this book, go link to book 2. Or go link back to a free book that you can download to join an email list. Mm-hmm. And in my journey, we've got the email too, and we've got other books as well. But it really started to come down to, okay, well, what is a product I would enjoy selling? What is a service I would enjoy doing? And back in 2016, when I kind of started to transition into the authorpreneur, from an author to an authorpreneur, I was trying to think, okay, well, what skills do I have? I'd written thousands of articles for blogs, my own, but also for blogs like Fast Company and Entrepreneur, and doing ghost writing gigs for CEOs who didn't know how to write and that sort of thing. And I said, okay, well, I know how to write short, punchy copy. What do authors struggle with? Well, after researching, after doing my podcast, The Sell More Book Show, for years, I realized that a lot of authors struggled with their book description, with their blurb. And so I said, all right, well, what if I write content and write a book about blurbs and then invite people to work with me for me to write those descriptions and blurbs? And so that was kind of the first transition for me, the first time I had ever thought about writing a book when trying to sell something else. And I think that's a key step for any author, fiction or nonfiction. Not just thinking about this book, thinking about what does this book point to, whether it's book 2, whether it's a related series, or on the nonfiction side, a service or a product that people can buy after that book. If they enjoyed the book, here's how you can further work with me, the author, or me, the business. And that was kind of the beginning for me.
That's, and I've used your service many times, and I absolutely love it. I recommend it to my clients as well. What was the most challenging part of making that jump? Were there growing pains?
Well, I think there's always going to be growing pains, and we always talk about the external ones. Mm-hmm. But internal, there is this feeling that I don't deserve to charge a certain amount for things. Mm-hmm. It's just like with all authors, at the beginning, back in 2010, the way you got the word out was all the books were 99 cents. If you're self-published, let's price it as low as we can. There was this one gentleman I remember, he would do some price matching tricks and he would get his book selling for a penny. And so there were all sorts of things you could do to try to get the book selling for as little as possible. But that is a mental hurdle as much as it is an external thing, is thinking about what should you price things. When I first put out best page forward book descriptions, me writing them myself, I didn't have a team yet, didn't have anything. I priced them at $49 a pop. And I got an email. I'd been trying to get on her podcast for years, Joanna Penn. I got an email from her saying the subject was crazy man. And it was in reference to my $49 price. And she said, all right, well, you can finally be on my podcast now that you've got something interesting going on. That isn't quite what she said, but and it made me realize, like, her saying you're pricing this way too low made me realize, okay, well, I've grown into a business, but am I a business or am I a charity? Am I going to spend every waking moment working for the lowest possible amount? Or am I going to do a favor to my customers and a favor to me at the same time by pricing higher? Because when you price higher, your customers place more value in your product. And when you price higher, you also place more value in yourself. And so I learned a lot over the years, and I still, years later, 7 years after that, I fight with my team over any price increase. They say, you got to increase the price. I say, no, don't make me. But it really is one of the biggest hurdles. And whether that's raising your book prices from 99 cents to $2.99 or $4.99, or just having products, or the big thing that's happened in the last couple of years, authors doing Kickstarters and figuring out, for my Kickstarter campaign or for my direct selling campaign, what am I going to price these paperbacks at? What am I going to price these specialty items at? And more often than not, they price them too low because they're afraid of coming off as greedy or salesy or what have you. But this is a natural feeling in the world of authorpreneurship.
I agree. And I face the same issues. I think the other thing that I underestimate my costs to do something.
Yes.
And when I think about what is it costing me to for a done for you book, but I'm not also factoring in all of the things that I'm paying monthly, all of my, professional development, the contractors I'm working with, all of those other things. Yes, I price some of it in, but I find I often underestimate the true cost of what I'm doing, not just the quality and what people are getting from me. Did you face that as well, as far as the challenges of with regard to pricing?
Oh, absolutely. When I started teaching my method to members of the team who I had hired on, I wanted to be super generous, and I still try to be, certainly, but I wanted to be too generous perhaps. And so I was starting to see that I would put these book descriptions out there. I would sell a decent number, and then at the end of the day, there would be no profit left over. And I realized, okay, made a couple mistakes here. Let's see what we can do to fix this up. And so it's always a learning experience with figuring out your expenses. And now we have been working with these recently here in 2023, working with these authors as part of our agency. We now have an agency. We will run ads for authors who are earning over $6,000 a month in royalties, and starting to see these folks having to deal with the higher level of expenses that come. Like, we have an author who Christmas tends to be their best time of year selling. They sell kind of gift friendly books. And they said, all right, well, our budget, $3,000. Our budget is $3,000 for this month. And so just let us know if you get close to it. And after about 5 days in the month of December, they hit that number, but their profitability was nearly 6 times that budget. And so they had to really think about, oh my gosh, well, what am I supposed to do? My original budget was this. I'm not going to get paid whatever Amazon's given me for 60 days, but I have to pay this credit card in 30 days. And this is real business stuff, right? And so they ended up expending their budget, and they were able to sell $95,000 worth of books that month.
Wow.
But if they had said, no, it's too rich for my blood, I don't want to do that, then they wouldn't have gotten nearly as close. And so it's really hard to think about the costs versus the money coming in, because it is a very important concern for the authorpreneur.
And mistakes are inevitable, right? Yeah. Like you said, we're making these pricing mistakes and reworking things. So being agile in what you're doing, it sounds like that is really important for the authorpreneur as well.
Yeah. Create a business plan, but assume it's going to change 20 times.
Okay. So you mentioned the growth of your team. At what point, like when did you make that decision? I've got to hire a team. And scaling it's scary. And I'm in that mode right now. It's like, do I hire people? Do I contract? So tell us about that process, and even just training the people and trusting and letting go, letting others, deliver a service that you do so well. I'd love to hear about that process.
It's hard. Hiring is hard. But it can be so incredibly rewarding working with a team and having people who trust you and look up to you, and who people that you can trust. It's funny how we make fun of buzzwords like company culture and things like that. But when you are even hiring one person, you need to start thinking about, okay, well, what culture do I want to have here? Is this something where I just write an email and I expect this person to do it without contact from me? Is this a thing where we connect on a regular basis in order to assign things? Is this the kind of thing where I want this person to be on my team for 10 years? And so all those thoughts have to come into play when you're hiring. I have had some people that it's like a friend of a friend or a friend's kid or whoever, but more often than not, rather than referrals, it's been a lot more about people who are already using my products, people who are already using my courses and services, who have expressed interest in even just lending a hand. They have been some of the best hires I've ever had. And so there's nothing wrong with looking to your readers, looking to your customers and seeing if anyone is interested. But you need a robust hiring process. You cannot just say, oh, thank goodness someone emailed. All right, you're hired. Yeah, you have to make an effort to see if they are the right kind of person. I'm big on personality typing things like Myers-Briggs and Strength Finder. I am big on having people do sample projects so that I can see their work in action before I hire them. I am big on it being a temporary thing. We say this is temporary. You're in for 90 days. At the end of 90 days, we can reevaluate. You need to have a process here, because if you are just looking to find someone quick, hurry before this whole thing falls down, it even if there is an emergent hiring situation, you got to take it slow, because otherwise you just might not get the right person, and getting the wrong person sometimes can make things a lot worse.
Yeah, I agree. Tell us about the culture. You talked about how important culture is. Tell us about the culture at your company.
So I read a book a couple years ago called Small Giants, which I really, really like. It talks about companies that intentionally try to stay small. They aren't trying to get bought out. They aren't trying to do whatever. They aren't trying to expand a million times over. They're just trying to do a good job for the customers they have. And they're really focused on a strong product. And one of the ways they do that is by valuing employees first and customers second. And you've seen me out there, April. You know that I love my customers. We take very good care of them. We always try to have a very kind relationship with our customers. But our culture right now is we take care of each other first. And if we take care of each other first, and we're kind to each other first, and we look out for each other first, we will do a good job taking care of our customers. And that has become our culture over the years. And I really do try to embody it. I feel a very important responsibility to be a good leader within my own company. And a lot of the time I did not want that responsibility. Right. I wanted, no, I just want to keep doing what I want to do. This isn't a job. This is just the thing I do. And y'all are just making some money on the side. And by reading that book and learning from working with people what was possible, if I decided to be a leader, if I decided to promote that kindness from within, I was hoping that it would work out, and it really has. And there have been challenges over the years to it, but I definitely think that if I'm always showing gratitude to the people who work with me, if I'm always looking to make sure they're getting treated fairly, both by me, each other, by the customers, then it's going to work out. We started instituting some new policies within our courses that are pretty much based on the employees coming back to me and saying, some of these authors are not treating us well. And I said, all right, well, we can't do that anymore. So we shared a new anti-harassment policy in the group that was really based on, all right, y'all, be kind to the people who are helping you here, because they are doing it, yes, because it's a job, but also because you are treating them with the same respect that they want to treat you with.
That's a really important piece of that puzzle for sure. One of the things that I struggle with at this stage of the game also is so busy working on the business, or I should say in the business, I'm not able to kind of break away and work on the scaling that I want to do.
Sure.
Did you have similar struggles when you were in this location and kind of getting ready to jump out and to do that big scaling for your company?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I think that a lot of it came down to really focus, not just giving lip service to the 80-20 rule. What, back in 2020 or so, what is the 80% focus of this business in order to scale? And for us, it was our ad challenges, and our free ad challenges were best promoted by Facebook ads. And so we said, all right, we're allowed to have other things, but we're going to put 80% of the focus on Facebook ads, which we farmed out to a third party. And we're going to keep doing these challenges, because if you repeat something, it means you can develop a system for it. And if you develop a system for it, it means you can spend less time on it. We do little updates to our videos every quarter. I was just getting ready to update this quarter's videos, and our system is so refined at this point. I reached out to my kind of my point person on this, and I said, wait, it really doesn't seem like we have that much work to do on these. She's like, yeah, we did a lot last quarter, and now you just have to make these changes. I'm like, that's really cool, because I had blocked out time today to work on it. And so eventually the time to work on your business creates itself if you get better and more focused on the things you're working on in your business.
Right. So are there things or challenges that you faced with in as your business started to grow that other authors, as they make that leap, also need to watch out for? Any tips or challenges to share?
I think a lot of authors believe that when they reach a certain point, imposter syndrome and haters will go away. Imposter syndrome essentially being the internal hater. But it is not true. They remain. Some of them are louder, both internal and external. And you have to be willing to kind of put up with that. It's unfortunate that as you grow your business, some of these internal and external struggles also tend to grow. And so you have to become emotionally strong. I have seen, this was an interesting one. Someone had reached out to me. I hadn't heard of them before, but they were trying to grow their business, and they wanted me to come on their show. And I had a date picked out, but then I realized it wasn't going to work. And they just yelled at me over email about having to change this date. And they said they can't trust me, they can't whatever. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm sorry, it's not going to work out. But the emotional maturity that's kind of needed in order to run a business and grow a business, I'm who knows, maybe, I don't know if I would have had it, but maybe back in 2016, if something wasn't going my way, I might have also blown up at somebody over email. But I've had to grow. I've had to work on myself. It's an ongoing process to work on yourself and improve yourself. You can't take a day off, unfortunately. And that is the kind of thing that I think a lot of authors don't get a chance to be more resilient in that way. They don't think about their resiliency in that way. And then when things hit the fan, they are not prepared to deal with it because they were just hoping that it would be that straight line that just keeps going up. They would see sales continue to improve. A lot of people thought that in 2020, 2021. And then suddenly people could go outside again, and now book sales were down. And they thought, no, it was supposed to go up forever. And it's like, well, that is a challenge that physically you have to deal with, but also the emotional aspects of that are not easy. And you will have to work on that if you are going to continue to improve. Yeah,
I agree. You talked also about the importance of being there for your team. Who's there for you? Because we don't want to be crying on their shoulder, right? Do you have a coach or a mentor or a mastermind that is an important critical step as far as being successful in business?
I have had coaches and I have had masterminds. I haven't in a couple of years, but they have been really, really helpful. One of the great things about fostering a team that's focused on openness and togetherness and being there for each other is that they're as there for me as I am for them. There was a great moment. I was a little upset about something that had transpired, and I reached out to a couple members of my team about it, and they said, look, it's a safe space. You can tell us what you're going through as much as we can tell you what we're going through. And showed me that I definitely hired some amazing people. And I think that if you are working with people and you can't trust them, or you're worried about the work that they do, then you are going to feel really alone. But if you work with people who inspire you and who excite you, then you end up on this great ground of equals where you can kind of discuss those sorts of things. But I will say I do therapy twice a month, and it's the same therapist I've had for over a decade, and I would not trade that for the world. And I think that having anyone to talk to who is a neutral third party is pretty darn important.
Yes. Amen to that. We all need that. And the other thing that you mentioned earlier on, you talked about some of the things that you were doing. You mentioned crowdfunding. I happened to participate, and I got, I engaged with your Kickstarter and loved what you were doing. Is crowdfunding something that, as people go from author to authorpreneur, that is something that they should be looking at?
I don't think there's any shoulds. I don't think you have to do it. I think that you can always try it, and then you can see if you like it. Because if you like it, if you're a big planner, Kickstarters are great for planners, great for strategic thinkers. You can really think about big time launches with Kickstarter. And then the great thing with Kickstarters is anything you sell specialty on a Kickstarter, you can then sell direct later on. I think I have Monica Leonel and Russell Nolte's book there on my shelf. They're great books. Get your book selling on Kickstarter. I think that it can be useful, but it's very helpful if you have an email list. It's not something that everyone could and should do, but I do think that there is a lot of value in it, because think about it. Kickstarter, you're getting that money a week or two after your campaign ends. That's way sooner than Amazon. It's kind of like a baby step over to direct selling where you get the money right away. And I think that it is something that I've seen a lot of authors do and a lot of authors try, but the ones who do it best tend to have a great email list and they have a team helping them out. Very challenging to do it all on your own.
Right. What about the financial side of things? Did that come natural to you as kind of making that switch when you're focused specifically on author writing, and then everything starts to focus around the financials there? How about financial growth and keeping track of financials? And did you hire people to maintain those things?
Well, I really like math. I really like finances. And so it wasn't too big of a stretch for me. When I was a kid, I used to kind of make little menus, fake restaurant menus, and think about how much I would price things to profit on certain dishes and whatnot. And that was a lot of fun for me. So that has always been a part of me, but I definitely did eventually need to hire an accountant. I definitely got some advice from people in the industry. Eventually, when I changed my company's tax designation from an LLC to an LLC with an S Corp designation, which meant I paid myself on a W-2, I did have to go get a bookkeeper. And so there were definitely times where I thought I could do it on my own, but I needed additional help. And eventually getting an accountant who knows what they're doing in your industry, in your, whether it's fiction or whether it's nonfiction, entrepreneurial, or a bookkeeper. I think it does become necessary at some point, but you don't necessarily need it right when you start out. You don't need all that stuff right at the beginning, but you do need to be ready, willing, and able to pay your taxes on time. You need to be ready, willing, and able to understand how credit cards work if you're going to be using them for advertising costs. So you need to know cash flow, those sorts of things. These are the natural parts of running a business, and you eventually need to get a handle on all of them.
Right. You should understand it and learn more about it, or bring somebody on to help if that's not where your expertise lies.
Absolutely.
That's been my challenge recently, is just I'm kind of in that magic place. And that's why this topic means so much to me, and pulling experts like yourself. I want to share a story with you, and then get into one final question before we close.
Sure.
So I have an author who's in her 80s. Her name is Pat, and she has been doing your Amazon Ads Challenge. She started working with me for, with mentoring and things like that. And I recommended the challenge because I thought it would be a good way to just, it's practice. It's getting in front of things and practicing. And she is running her own ads. And she is one of dozens of authors that I've worked with. So I think that your Amazon Ads Challenge is genius because it's giving people very important service, helping them to learn at no charge whatsoever. And yet the genius of it is it's a great lead magnet for you and leads into other services. So tell me about how that contributes to your business. And should authors also be thinking along those lines of ways of serving and growing their reach and their email list as well?
Oh, great questions. And that's awesome. Way to go, Pat. And thank you for sending her my way, April. So the ad challenge was an idea that we really wanted to play around with. I love education and thinking about new ways to educate people. I'd seen other people use challenges and I wanted to try one. And we determined that, hey, we liked it well enough when we did it the first time back in September 2019, if you can believe it. And we said, well, let's do it again in January. Let's change a few things. Let's try it out. And we kept putting it out there. And we said, all right, well, let's try April 2020. And April 2020, the start of the pandemic, we had one of our biggest challenges ever. We had so many people who were stuck inside, who had nothing to do. And so they took the challenge, and we taught so many people that quarter and realized unless something stops us, we're going to keep doing this thing every quarter. And it's been so great. It has been a wonderful lead generator, but it's also been a great way for people to come back. We have people who've taken the challenge 5 times. Because they learn something new every time, and they can't maybe afford to join our premium programs like Author Ad School. And so they just take the challenge over and over again and take advantage of those couple of weeks of free support. And we love that. We get to take care of the people who are not at that budget level yet, but who want to find a way to get more of their books sold. Now, I don't necessarily know if a challenge would work on the fiction side, but on the nonfiction author side, there is absolutely a possibility with the challenge. Heck, I mean, a few people in the author space suddenly had challenges in 2021, 2022. Very strange. They didn't always call them challenges, but I think they saw that there was a lot of value in that model. Mm-hmm. And they also learned how hard it was, which is why some of those challenges never came back. But we really need to think about what are our audiences, what are our target customers looking for, what are they looking to learn, what problems are they looking to solve. And if there is a problem that you can help solve with education, and you can give them a free taste of that education, then I would say a challenge might be worthwhile. We're playing around with some stuff for 2024 that we're hoping to get the challenge out to a brand new, wider audience. And that's really exciting and nerve-wracking, but mostly exciting. And I think that if you find something, whether it's a challenge or a free book or a free something that you can give that works, don't try to then find something new that works too. Keep doing the thing over and over again that works. Optimize it, make it better, make it stronger. You do not need to be a Facebook guru and a TikTok guru and a Pinterest guru and an everything guru. If you find one thing that works, that you can say, I put in $1, I get $2 back. Do that 1,000,000 times and you'll have $1 million in profit. So just keep on pushing when you find something that works.
I love that. That's great advice. And I love the heart of a servant. I find myself that it gives me such joy to serve others. And I'm like you, feel like if I can provide some service to someone who's at that starting level, I get a great deal of satisfaction, but that person also is able to learn and grow and at some point come back to me. And I've had people come back 7 months after they just started watching my videos or doing things that I put out there at no charge, because they feel, and you sit on in a Zoom and they're on the other side of the window of the screen. Like, I can't believe I'm finally talking to you. Like I have no idea that these people have been watching and learning and growing. And it's just so rewarding to have that kind of thing. And I love connections with folks like yourself who have that heart of a servant and serve. And, servant leadership is so important these days but it also, when you put out there, comes back. And you are a great example of that, because you do serve so much in this community. And I want to personally thank you for all of that, because I bought Mastering Amazon Ads, and I bought a lot of your other, I did your challenges, and I worked through, I was one probably that has done the challenge 6 times, and I learned something new every time. I'm able to also help others to learn, and I recommend them to go to you. Is there anything else you've got coming on? I'd love to give you an opportunity to talk a little bit about your business, some of the things that are coming, because there are going to be a lot of authors that are going to see this interview and want to work with you. Tell us more about what's coming from Best Page Forward and some of the other stuff you're doing.
Sure. And thank you for the kind words. And thank you again for having me, April. Our free challenge comes up 4 times a year, October, January, April, July, although 2024, we might do it a month earlier than October for no apparent reason in 2024. But that you can sign up for that anytime at authorsadvertise.com. We're going to do some fun stuff next year with Authors Advertise, but also with some of our other things. We're going to be doing some fun giveaways. We're going to be giving away all sorts of crazy stuff, some chances to win a mastermind in person with me in North Carolina, and all sorts of stuff. By getting on my list, going through the challenge, getting on my list is about the best way to kind of keep up to speed with that. We always are still writing book descriptions at bestpageforward.net. Every Wednesday, we still got a free podcast at sellmorebookshow.com. The Sell More Book Show is coming up on its 500th episode, 500 consecutive weeks. And so there's always fun stuff we've got going on. But next year, we're going to give away a lot of prizes to a lot of people, and I'm pretty excited about that.
Oh, thank you so much, Bryan, for coming out and for sharing your authorpreneurial journey and inspiration with us. I really appreciate that. I wish you success, and I can't wait to hear what 2024 is going to bring for the company and for all of us authors who are waiting with bated breath to see what's happening next. So again, thank you.
Thank you, April. Appreciate it.